Hello, and welcome back to the ARK of E podcast. My name is Noah.
And my name is Gavin.
And we're the Blanchard brothers. Back with you to talk a little more TV. Kicking off this month by wrapping out two of the biggest finales in recent TV history. Mm-hmm. We're a little late to the party, but we had to go on the road to reckoning. We got to do that at the end of every month. So
yeah, definitely.
But this is a great way to kick off the month of June.
The what?
The month of June.
June,
yes.
Happy June.
Happy June to you too as well.
Happy June to you too, brother.
Thank you. So, yeah. I think we're going to call this one Sticking the Landing.
Yeah.
Subtitle, Saying Goodbye to Barry in Succession. We did a pretty extensive... What are you looking at? What?
I was just reading articles about these finales, just
okay.
mainly concerned with the numbers of what they did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that's what we're all about here.
Yeah, of course, the numbers.
The numbers.
Yeah.
Very important. But yeah, we did a pretty big Succession episode a couple weeks back at this point.
Yeah, about 2
I
weeks
had
back.
Mikey on in between, and then we just did Road Wreck. Sorry, we're recording some of these together, so a little lost in time and space. But the finale's just aired. This is currently Wednesday after Memorial Day, so we watched these Sunday night. And I think, given that Succession has kind of dominated most of the post-finale conversation in the space, I think we're going to open with Barry. I think that's the move. Because I feel like, just by virtue of it airing right alongside the final season, maybe it got a little shortchanged in the discourse. I don't know. Hasn't made as much noise, I feel like. And that might also be a result of, the final season going into some places that maybe people weren't as comfortable with, weren't as excited by. Maybe 3 lost some people. I don't know. Maybe you had a certain amount of people who got to the end of 3 and were like, well, that's it, right? They don't need to make any more of this. There's more. Does there need to be more? There definitely needed to be more.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got more.
Of course.
And again, the episode's called Sticking the Landing. I texted you afterward. So, okay. Spoilers for Barry and Succession. The entirety of the series.
Yes.
If you haven't watched them,
don't listen.
Sorry,
Seriously.
we fucked up this week. But yeah. You texted me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it really does pay to suck the biggest dick in the room. And I'm so glad that I did not read that until, I saw that you had sent me a text, but I watch these, way later on the evening because I always watch Barry first on Sunday nights, which means I have to wait for the entirety of Succession to air and then Barry to pop up. So I'm watching Succession basically an hour and a half removed from everybody else. Now, this was even further delayed Sunday night because I was like, I'm off Monday. There's no rush.
Right.
And there was a little bit of I don't want them to end. I was kind of trying to savor it, enjoy my Sunday evening. But I saw that you had texted me, but I literally, I called most people in advance and it didn't occur to me to call you. But I called Tim and his wife Elise and because we have a group chat and I was like, just to let you know, I watched them in reverse order. Do not text me a fucking thing about either of these shows until the following day.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, we don't even know if we're going to get to them because we have friends in town, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, you let me know when I can talk to you about these shows. So, yeah, I waited until after I had watched both because I didn't know if you were talking Barry. I didn't know what you were talking about, but I certainly found out. But yeah, I should have specified, even though I figured you would be watching them way later than me because you stay up way later than I do, but...
No, I'd kind of been I'd kind of hung around Sunday and was just kind of, what was I doing?
Dude, I spent most of the day literally just waiting for it because I was just, that's all I've been waiting for the week prior. And I was sitting there on Sunday and it was kind of dreary down here. We were going to try and ride bikes and we were both just kind of just not in the mood. And it was a very tedious, what should have been a really relaxing Sunday. Do I have to work tomorrow? Do whatever. I don't know, felt really tedious because I was just like, dude, just be 10 o'clock. Can
right.
you just be 10 o'clock?
Saturday I watched Dave, and then Sunday, just kind of hung around. I think we caught up on no, we kind of caught up on extrapolations a little bit, and then we
And you and I we'll talk Dave in depth. It ends this week
yeah.
that we're recording this episode, so maybe I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll get to it down the road.
'Cause
I'm still one episode behind right now. So.
Okay, well, if you're one
I just
behind-
watched the Met Gala last night.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna
God.
I'll watch 9 when you leave.
Okay, so the 9 is gonna probably get you back on board with everything with
okay.
the issues you've had with it.
I'm happy to hear you say that because it was weird. I as much as I enjoyed the Met Gala episode, again we will do a Dave episode. Sorry. Yeah, I was kind of, I don't know, I felt like I was like left out of the party a little bit where I'm like, am I not as hot on this season as everybody else is? And so I did a cursory like look around, like I literally Googled, does Dave season 3 suck? Not that I think it sucks, but I was just like, I was trying to get to like, give me the shit take. Give me the people that hate it. And I couldn't find any.
Right.
So I was kind of like, all right, I've been watching them at a weird pace, and like I'll do 2 one night, and then I'll take like 3 weeks off. It's been all over the place, so that's a little bit of a part of it. But I'm very encouraged to hear you say that about 9.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and then Sunday we watched Class of '09. Caught up on that. I don't know if you're watching that or not. Pretty good.
I heard mixed things. I mean, it's got our boy in it, but
Yeah, I like it.
I
think it's great.
yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Just the way they play around with past, present, future. I think it's perfect. And
I think what we'll do, because this conversation is going to expand. We're covering 2 shows, but I think when we come back next time, we'll talk Dave season finale or whatever, and then I want to get into the discussion of like, now I literally told Tim and Elise, I was like, you guys prepare, because after Sunday night, like Prestige TV, it's dead. It's dead.
you're not waiting around for the Idol?
Also, you and I got to talk about the
episode
Idol
by
at some
episode.
point.
We're going to do it. Weekly podcast, The Idol. You, me.
Is that what we're gonna be for the next? Is it 8 or 10 episodes?
I have no idea. I don't care.
Are we gonna turn the network over to the most controversial show of the year?
Who knows?
No, I mean if you want to do it,
I mean, I'm gonna probably do it.
I had to like just Veronica's like, are you gonna be watching? I was like, yep, I'm gonna be watching it, and she was like, really? And I was like, for the pod, I gotta do it for the pod. I was like, but yeah, I was like, it's literally probably it's Gavin's favorite artist, who he's talked about probably more than anybody else on this network. We have to, like, whether I like it or feel good about it or not, we're going to talk about it. So,
Yeah. I mean, you saw he's already changed his name and everything, right? He's done with The Weeknd. Like, it's done deal.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll put a stake in the ground right now. Next week, yeah, we'll do this
If
again.
if you don't like the pilot on Sunday, then you don't have to worry about it. But I'll do it by myself.
We'll talk.
I'll do my own.
We'll talk Dave. We'll talk The Idol.
Whatever that show was you followed by yourself.
Here and Now. Never forget.
Yeah, I'll do that myself.
When I single-handedly got an HBO show canceled because they were like, no.
I'm going to single-handedly keep this one going. People are going to they're going to be like, watch the show podcast. Just this kid talking about it by himself. Follow along for the tie-in podcast. HBO is going to hear it Monday morning, and they're going to be like, oh my God, we got to get this kid on the paper.
Got to get in on that zeitgeist.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what's
so
gonna
I guess Idol episode by episode recaps coming for you on
Deep
the
dives.
future Wednesdays.
Yeah.
We will still do Road to Reckoning.
Right.
I promise that will not go away. But apparently apparently Abel Tesfaye is hijacking our entire network for the next month and a half, 2 months, 3 months. I don't know how long the show's going to be. Okay.
I'm there for it. That's all.
But
that
yeah,
matters.
we have to have the like, what is television now conversation. I did remind myself, I was like, oh, the Bear's coming back. So
we got True Detective in a couple months.
Yeah, but
You're not thrilled.
it's
I get it.
no. I'm very excited. But I was thinking about this. I was like, but it's an anthology thing. In the same way that I'm like, Fargo is a fantastic show. But the simple fact that it's an anthology means that there have been peaks and valleys.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different ball game. I'm just
Are
like,
you afraid that because it's the 4th season, that's going to be a valley like season 2 was? Is that that's your ultimate fear?
of True D?
Yeah.
I'm like incredibly excited for this season.
Jodie Foster's first
Here's
TV show.
my thing though, is I'm like, I want this to be the season where we finally go full supernatural, and it is the thing. Like, the vibe and aesthetic, I'm like, just be The Thing. Like, can we do The Thing as a TV show?
Yeah.
I know they kind of tried to do that on HBO. It was like an import show from
The
last
Outsider?
year. No.
They're in like a the Antarctic.
It was an
or whatever.
Antarctic
It was
facility,
an
and there
import
was
show.
maybe
Yeah.
aliens or a virus or something.
Mm-hmm.
The Head? Is that what it was called? But
I
I
think-
heard it didn't all come together, but definitely like Thing type vibes.
I think what you're gonna find is my answer to that question about TV is go check out Apple TV, because there's a ton of stuff there that you haven't watched. So maybe in lieu of like The Idol, maybe you go catch up on Apple TV for a month or two and tell me what you think of the shows that have already come out this year, the ones that are going to be coming out, and maybe catch like an original movie or something and you report back.
Okay.
We do that for the summer.
We'll figure it
knows?
out. All right. Barry.
Barry, when we last talked about Barry, where were you at? You were like,
You were behind me.
where were you at though?
I was current with it.
Current with it, which would have been
So, which would have been episode.
the jump. I knew about the jump in time.
We talked about that,
Yeah.
but we had seen.
I had not watched the app because we see the jump in time at the end of one, but the next one we're full on into it.
I don't know. You and
I
I
would-
mainly
I've been caught up.
You had only watched the first 2 episodes when we talked on mic.
There was only 2 to watch at that point.
Yes, because excuse me, I'm conflating it because we did a whole Succession episode,
Right.
but we never talked about any of Barry.
Right.
In that
Even though we had
Succession
caught
episode.
up by then. Yeah. I
Yes.
caught up with it all by then.
So yeah, I guess let's go back to the jump, which for as much as you could say there was any controversy this season, that definitely maybe was some people were like, what the hell's going on? Is this a dream sequence? And then we're either relieved by like, oh no, they're committing to this, or we're like, why are we doing this? But I don't know. I've been over the mood for all of the decisions he made, but that was kind of the first big, like, beyond the tonal shift of the show
Right.
in the last season and a half. So yeah, what did you make of young John and all that stuff?
It's one of those where like I was trying not to get bogged down to the minutia of like, okay, so I'm just supposed to accept that like she had a child because she's so indifferent to this child. She doesn't love this child at all.
Right.
Like she's so stuck in her own bullshit about having to leave her life behind, which she signed up for. Because Barry's the only person that you feel like you could leave with and it would be safe because Barry's Barry. And so, but I also was like, okay, this is his like atonement. This is his like, all right, I did some bad things, but I'm not a bad guy. Let me like, I'm going to like try and put everything behind me. If I do this thing good and raise this son good, like maybe I wasn't raised good, I'll be okay. To the point that like one of my favorite bits was as he's leaving to come back to LA, all the podcasts he's listening to and be like, yep, turns out murder's definitely all right. When first it's like murder's a sin and you shouldn't. And just the fucking satire of like, you can find anything you want to hear in an echo chamber, especially when it comes to like validation and like, like-minded things that are going to make you feel like what you're doing or what you're into is not wrong at all. I love that. I love that. I mean, I love the tone of this show and what it's saying. If you can't get it, I get what it's saying about everything. Life, Hollywood, celebrity, satire, just everything in general. I love what it's doing. And so when I'm like, okay, this is how they're living, this is what happens and whatnot. And you have that whole episode with it's just the two of them anchoring it. Now, granted, you have her at work, but you have him and John, and you totally get the vibe of like John loves his dad. And like, his dad is his world.
Also has a completely curated perspective of him.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I
let me
talked about
take
this
out
a
all
little
my
bit.
bad sides. Let me take out everything that made me bad. And let me just give him the good points to the point that like, I love that they're like, I talked about Abraham Lincoln. And then it's like, turns out that guy Abe, yeah, kind of did some bad stuff. And it's just like, of course it is. It goes straight back to what I was just saying about what he finds about himself. It's just like, you can find anything you need to validate or discredit what you want. To the point where like I love John and his buddy playing catch. He's like, you kind of get it. And Barry goes out of his way to show.
This is the most...
No. The second one where it's like, Noah, because the kid's on the ground after being hit with a ball and he's dying, and I'm like, oh my God, no, this is terrible. But at the same time, I'm dying laughing. I'm just thinking like, what is Noah feeling watching this episode? But he goes out of his way to show his children, children getting killed playing baseball, to the point the next night he's like, I don't want to get killed by a baseball. And like, she's having to lay in bed with him and like, to comfort him. But you get that brilliant thing of like her just like, she's checked out. She just kind of politely just kind of like inconveniently rolls over on her side, and then the only really thing that like I got thrown with was like the whole like thing with her and John at the house while Barry was gone. That was like her psyche, or did that like legit happen?
I think it happened. I thought it was the dude from work.
Maybe.
I mean, it's not like 100% explained, but there was also, I conflated it at the time because Fuchs and NoHo Hank are talking, and it's like, oh, things are already in motion. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, they're already tracking him, essentially.
Right.
They're sending people to the house. That's what I thought it was initially. But then, no, I took it as that was her coworker that she threatened the day prior, coming back in.
Or getting him fired. But at the same time, like the way it plays is because nothing really happens to her. She's not assaulted. She's not beaten up. The dude slams the door behind her, and like
it's very, very surreal. Yeah.
Right. So in my head, I'm like, this is her innate fear of being alone. That if she's alone without Barry, people who know the guy that she and Barry killed are gonna come find her, and the only way she's gonna be okay is if Barry's with her. And when we see her without Barry, maybe she trashed the house, maybe there was an earthquake, but when you see like the ramifications of it being like the house being fucked up, you're like, okay, it definitely had to happen. But in my head, I'm like, we're seeing this from her perspective, so like, did this happen?
Right.
Maybe the house is completely fine, and that's why John is freaking out. One, because his dad is gone, and two, his mom is batshit crazy because she can't be alone. She has to be with Barry because Barry is safe to her. Barry will always protect her. Even though she's fine going to work and like she drinks on the job and whatnot, but like being alone at the house with the kids.
She's playing a character.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. She only works if she's playing a character. And that kind of rates. You see that when the whole like scene stealing she tries to do with fucking Paul Crane calling her out.
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Or Paul McCrane, sorry, ER fame. It just, I don't know. I was like, okay. And I do love the subversion that I got in the finale, because, we get into like, okay, Barry sees it like Gene Kuznets comes out of hiding. He's gonna like, he thinks he's like trying to get a movie made. So he's like, I gotta kill Kuznets. So he's like, he goes back to LA, and you're like, okay. And I kind of saw it coming. That's the only thing I really saw coming was like Gene's just walking around in the house with the door open. Of course, the detective's going to be there. Like it's got to happen. Mm-hmm. But the flip from that, with putting him in the room and what he's doing him to like to get him to talk, and like how that all gets switched around. Initially, I kind of was like, this is not doing it for me because this just feels like lazy, easy writing. But at the same time, it perfectly fits with this idea of like, you were once considered a hero. Now you like, maybe you're the villain, misrepresentation, like people just going with a headline and running, not doing the legwork and like finding out what's true, just going off of a headline. We could, that's some of that stuff's going to come up in Succession too. But like,
and of course, the thing that Robert Wisdom's character pulls out of all that is the money, which is like one of those tiny little threads that you don't even think of.
Yeah, I forgot
all
about it.
Oh, but that would come into being relevant. Okay, that's interesting because it just, bottom line, it is literal proof that he knew that he had murdered Janice and didn't say anything about it for at least like 6 months or something like that. Like,
he was fine to get the star treatment and get like
exactly.
all that.
But here's the key thing. Robert Wisdom still gives him the one last opportunity with the whole fake out of like,
my client is Daniel Day-Lewis.
But it's Daniel Day-Lewis.
Do you think Mark would come here?
Which
no,
is
Mark
so
won't go in the
funny
woods.
because I'm sitting there and in the moment I'm like, well, I know this is bullshit.
Right.
But I also loved that I was like, of course. It was like the one name that you could pull
Anybody
out
will stop for me.
that he would do. Like, I will sacrifice all my my morals for. It was like, but Daniel Day-Lewis is interested. Incredible. But I knew exactly what he was walking into.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite see the turn of like, oh, but the money, and now they're going to think you're implicated, and holy shit.
I love the fact that the guy's like, I was actually in your class. I'm an actor. I was actually in your class like 5 years ago. Oh, okay.
And I was like, was he in the pilot? I was like, I think he might have been like in the first season. That guy just in the background.
Yeah, could have been.
Yeah. So yeah, that turn, pretty surprising. And at the end of 9, or excuse me, I keep thinking these seasons are 10 episodes. They're not. They're 8. At the end of 7, it's basically like, okay, NoHo Hank has Sally and John. Fuchs is headed there.
Oh, dude,
it was just basically
let's run it back.
Oh, we will. But I was just gonna say,
we're all converging on this.
To have it all set up of like, I thought that's what we're going into with the finales. I was just like, you're telling me like every principal character is about to just like be at the same location, and of course nothing played out at all how I expected it to.
That's the subversion I love. Yeah.
But yeah, Fuchs.
Yeah, the Raven. Him getting out of prison and just going, twiddling his fingers, and the guard doing it to him. And the first place he goes is a fucking like Starbucks,
And picks up the barista.
The woman is with him, and he's like, "Look at me. Never thought I'd have a family at all. I thought my daughter's going to Fullerton or whatever." You see
what? I forget what the college was, but it was so funny.
Yeah, Pepperdine.
Pepperdine.
She's going to Pepperdine.
Oh, Pepperdine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude. Yeah, that shit was hilarious. And the whole like, they I think it was the heads. He was cutting off that. So what if we know we've got business going down, I just take them out for a nice meal? No problem.
I love the bit before that. With
I'm just being like, we can't always plan though. We don't always know when shit's about to go down.
Oh, we just turn a movie on. Turn some music over loud.
Could try Fast and the Furious. Those movies are so
loud. But if you've never seen them, bro, like you got to go back. But I love before that when Hank assembles like the dream team of assassins, he cannot get over the one. He's like, oh,
he's just attractive.
Yeah, and he's like, okay. And then when he gets the heads back, he's like, why am I still doing this? So okay. I don't know if you talked to Mo. You have to because I talked to her. But Mom told me that she texted you was like, is it?
She was
like, NoHo Hank is my favorite? And I'm like,
I was like,
no,
absolutely not.
And
he's the heart and soul of the show.
Then she reminded me that I've never watched mine. It's like when Sons of Anarchy was over, I haven't really watched any of it. But she reminded me that he was on Mayans. I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, he's not. Like,
I randomly saw him in a promo for the most recent season.
All right, that works. So, but yeah, and it's like the whole, I do, maybe we already discussed it. Maybe, well, we didn't, but like when they're looking for Barry and they're like, we got a line on NoHo Hank and all this, and they like the team stacking up and they go into Dave and Buster's and they're just like, get out, you piece of shit. So some guy who's got like an Oilers shirt on, which is just confusing. Like, I don't get it. Bunch of Browns fans in an Oilers. It's just so fucking, God, it's so fucking, yeah. It's just that, and then of course we get the twist of like Hank was willing to sell out all of their rivals so that like he and Cristobal could be safe, and like
one of my favorite runners through all of season 4. I feel like this was for me and like, maybe a couple thousand other people. I don't know. He's got his fans. But the inmates who Fuchs ends up like bringing into the fold, but one of them is Andre Highland, bearded guy or mustachioed white guy who is in like Relaxer and a bunch of other movies that I absolutely love. He kills it. Good friend of our mutual friend Yoni Wolf. I think they're both Ohio guys. Anyways, but him and his buddy, who like are kind of just in the background and have moments like throughout the season, and let's like they still give them a moment in the finale during the shootout and everything after it goes down. Like that was a nice touch. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. So, okay, we get into the finale. We have like everybody converging basically, and yeah, you and I were talking about it earlier, but just the pure comedy of Barry walking into Walmart and like strapping on assault rifles. Second time he's been in there, of course. Mm-hmm. I love the previous time where they're like, oh yeah, legally I have to show you these photos of what a bullet can do to a human body. Huh? Okay. All right.
Well, no, as soon as he walked out, I just said out loud to Bex, I was like, there's no waiting period on rifles. You have to wait for a handgun, but you can get a rifle the same day. Like, in my head, that's the first place I went to. I was like, of course. And the comedy of, like, them being strapped, 2 straps behind him. He's got a rifle and a shotgun. Clank, clank, clank. As he's walking through Walmart and no one bats an eye. In California.
Yes.
Like, that's the only thing that threw me. If that was here, I don't think anybody'd say anything. But in California, you feel like they're losing their minds for that. So the satire of it all, like how easy it is for him to get a gun. Yes,
but again, another thing that doesn't get represented because everybody looks at like, oh, Hollywood, the liberal elites of the West Coast. And I'm like, all I've ever heard is California has more rednecks than the South does in terms of like, no, those like...
Yeah, but these are like gang member rednecks who like make meth.
I know,
and,
but
like,
it's just like
sell it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, the voting body out there is historically Democratic. I was like, there are plenty of Republicans in California. There's plenty of WalMarts too. I'm just saying.
If you look at that map, which is why the Electoral College is bullshit. That map has a lot of blue in the big cities, but the rest of the state, a lot of red, a whole lot of red.
A lot of red. Yeah. So going into the finale, it like knows Hank's compound, and of course it all pops off beforehand. And again, there have been so many like just interesting decisions. We talked about earlier in the season when he does the flashback to Barry as a kid, like the first time he meets Fuchs. And I remember just being blown away where I was like, dude, this is so simple and genius, and why don't more people do it? It's like, we're not going to spend a bunch of money to de-age Stephen Root. We're not going to do a big makeup job on him. We're just going to shoot this at a really long distance. We're going to make an artistic choice that also serves a purpose in that way. And I was just like, dude, that's the kind of like, I also feel like he's such a hater, is such a student of film making, that at this point he's like, he's one of those guys who's seen everything.
Did he not direct the last 5 episodes?
He directed the entire finale, or the entire final season.
I thought somebody else directed like the first 2.
The whole thing, top to bottom.
Good for him.
If I'm not mistaken, and most of 3 as well. Yeah. No, it is pretty much full on auteurship.
Well, that's one thing I want to get to, because like first thing I asked Becky was what she thought. She was like, oh, I don't know, and I said, what about you? And I was like, knowing that that's all he ever wanted to do. You know, he came out to L.A. He was Arnold's PA on a movie. He got funny. People put him. So like knowing that he's finally now getting to, maybe he does want to direct a big movie, but like. If this is what if he had to do all that stuff with SNL and the movies he was in to get here, to make this, and to like kind of be a little bit of like here's kind of what I've noticed in like the 20 years I've been out here. I'm gonna make fun of it, but it's gonna be like really nice, and like it'll be funny, be super funny to some people, funny to most, super funny to others. Violence will be there, but when it's violent, and it's gonna get dark, and once it gets dark, it does not get light anymore. It's just gonna be dark. And the fact that they let him make that, and they let him do it for 4 seasons, and he got to be in the master control, like whether he does any other project again on any sort of scale, whether it's a movie that he's directing or another series he produces, if this is what he really wanted to do with the shot he got, I'm happy for that, regardless of how anybody else feels about it. Yeah. It doesn't hurt that like what he gave you is fucking amazing.
And will be something that like I will rewatch pretty regularly, because it's also so digestible, even for as dark and twisted a show as it is.
I mean, it has something for everybody. Like anybody who I've ever thought of like recommending it to, I've had no qualms about it, because I'm like, they will get it. At some point they'll see like, oh, I get it. That's, they may not get certain jokes.
There are so many jokes to me, even in going back through it, that are so inside baseball and so like industry specific that I do wonder sometimes if like there's a solid 25 to 30% of the jokes that your average like viewer just kind of like just passes right by them. But I never feel like it's alienating at the same time. But there are those like deep cut industry jokes throughout that are just like no perfect.
Oh yeah, just him
Dude,
shaking.
I'm sorry to jump to it, but the commemorative Rip Torn gun coming into play that's been set up for all of these seasons, and they've even referenced, well, if Rip Torn gave it to you, it's probably fires real bullets.
Yeah. Well, and then like the what was I gonna say? The just the end bit of like just everything with Kuznets and like his hatred of the industry, and then like when Barry finally sets it up for him to be, accepted, he's just like, well, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then like he helps the woman get her show and all that, and it's
Joe Mantegna,
dude, him and Joe Mantegna talking. It's like, that's why we do it, brother. You're like,
it was just so funny to me because I remembered like that whole like, oh, I got my chip, because he supports the troops and everything. And I just recently, it was like the Memorial Day concert presented by Gary Sinise and Joe Mantegna. And they're doing all the promo for it. And I was like, oh, I forget he is like a legit big like veterans advocate. Yeah,
totally.
And all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would have been the only thing I would have added is if you could have got Gary Sinise in there somewhere. Probably would have taken the show to an 11,
dude.
But it's fine. But
okay,
yeah, so we're all together.
Sorry, I mean, I was talking about the filming for a minute, but that shootout between Fuchs and NoHo Hank's crews that escalates before Barry can even get there to like, have a cool badass action scene or whatever, which again, great subversion. But to play that all out in a big master shot of just like everybody gets blown away kind of at the same time. You're doing kind of the Reservoir Dogs thing of like, all right, but who shot who? And you're like, where's the kid? Where's Sally? You're trying to figure out all of that.
Hank. Like when you see Hank go, and everybody else is going, and you kind of stay with him, and then the pull around of like, okay, now let's turn and let's watch what happened to this mob, and you're like, oh shit. But then,
dude, the grenade throw, like
all the last guy at the last second just taking it and boom.
But I love when they do that long pan across. Andre Highland's like crying over the body of his buddy. I was like, they had their own little arc like the whole season. Yeah. I loved it. He's just like so devastated. His buddy's like guts are on the floor.
So but now brutal. We have Chechens who will die for us. That's exactly what I thought. Mean,
the person who weirdly in all of this like got the most redemption, I felt like, was fucking Fuchs.
Yeah.
After all of this shit, the one
Fuchs
person
never
who kind of
anyone
like,
in his life.
who really like made a conscious decision to like, I fucked this kid up. Like, this bottom line
is my fault.
This is my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how I can make it right. I can give him his kid back. He has no context of like how Barry's been influencing that kid, none of that. But he can metaphorically be like, well, I can give you back the childhood that I took away from you,
right? In
the form of this kid, and we're square. And I loved the like just the looks exchanged between the two of them were just like perfect, dude. And yeah, again, subverting expectations, I figured in that like standoff, like Fuchs is the one who's gonna get blown away because I'm more invested in NoHo Hank, but like having him die at like Cristobal's statue, the hand, like all of that stuff was just like so perfect. And I'm sitting there kind of like in my head, I'm like, there's only been like 10 minutes, bro. Like,
yeah,
we got a lot of episode left. Like,
right.
What else is gonna happen here? So then, yeah, where do we?
I mean, basically, they get away. You know, she finds her way outside, and they go to the hotel, and she's like, you know, this could all go south on Yakuza now. You should really turn yourself in. He's like, it's been a long day.
Yeah, no. When he immediately,
I don't think God wants me to do that. Like I was prepared to die.
Dude,
to go
when he pulled out I don't think God wants me to do that. That is, just reinforcing. Like, God damn it, Barry. Like. I can't root for you anymore, right. Dude. I can't do it. I haven't been able to do it for like 2 seasons. And you're just, at that point, I literally said out loud to Veronica, I was like, Sally's going to have to kill him.
Yeah.
I thought that's where we were headed.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely thought she's going to have to be the one to do it.
Right.
And that's not what happened.
No.
That's not what happened.
But
I really thought,
I
really thought that's where we were headed.
They're out of there.
And then, yeah, when they were gone, I was just like, okay, smart decision, get the kid out of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the whole, we didn't even talk about, but like her confessing to the kid, like, we're bad people. I killed somebody, your dad killed somebody, but like you're a good person or whatever, and like her breaking down and the kid comforting her, like that shit all like really played for me, and kind of like, I don't know, brought into a little bit more focus that it's like, I feel like she's so checked out in the situation that they've made, the life that they've made for themselves, because she's real. I mean, she knows she's trapped with a monster. Like,
right.
She knows she is, but she's kind of acquiesced to that because, and again, she's repeating cycles of abuse and shit that has been set up since the first season and the ex-boyfriend. Like, you keep wanting to see her, like, you're just I mean, when she, at the end of, what is it, end of 4 or 5, when he shows up all covered in dirt, he's been missing the whole episode, and he's just like, let's go, and she's like, yeah, okay, like, let's do it, let's go. You're sitting there
he
going,
says, let me stay here tonight. She's like, let's go. And he's like, really?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
the episode,
Really?
then we smash cut to like the beginning of the, like,
that's right, that's all in that one episode. Yeah, so it's just him heading over to Kusanow's, right?
Yeah,
There's nothing else to wrap up. Yeah. I like that we get a little bit more Fred Melamed.
Yeah.
I owe you a Vitamix.
Yeah.
All that off-screen stuff. And of course, I'm like, it's incredibly well framed and staged because they set everything up, and I'm like, oh no, the moment when Barry finally has like a realization that, like, okay, I should turn myself in. That's what I'm gonna do. Like, call the cops. And we hear the shot go off. I'm like, no, not Gene.
Kuznets didn't just shoot
like,
himself
Gene
in the
just
head.
killed himself right at the moment when like everything was about to work out. And then the pan over of, I was like, oh shit, and then oh wow.
Oh wow. Boom. And that last shot.
Another one through the head, dude.
And
Oh,
that
man.
last shot pulling back of them being like, him dead. There was a part of me that was like, he's dead and gone, and that's exactly where he wanted to end this. But like in the true Hollywood ending, it would be that like, oh, those are really just blanks, and he's just kind of knocked out for a little bit. Like, it really didn't hurt, and he's gonna be able to get up and just leave. But then the smash cut to like, okay, Sally's up on stage now, and she's like, look at all, like, she's obviously teaching kids how to act, and you have John growing up a little bit more, and it's just a typical like whatever. And again, she does not, from what I remember, I have to go back and watch the episode again. She has not told that child that she loves him at all. It is never uttered to him once that she loves him. Like, I love you, John. I love you, son. She doesn't say that the entire time she has a child. Maybe she did when he was younger. Maybe it was like fun and like, oh my God, we have a baby and like we have to stay together. We're on the run. But like, she is just checked out and done, and like she doesn't acknowledge him as like, I love. He says I love you multiple times, even in the ending there where they're supposed to be in a better place. After she's turned down the dude that hit on her, she's like, nope, and she's out. But she doesn't even tell him like, hey, be home. I love you. Be safe. Be home. She just, all right, I'll see you, and she just goes home. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Good choice, because like, I'm sure you do love him because you got him out of that situation, but you can't say it because
right. There's always going to be this weird attachment, detachment rather, but also this like lingering fear of like, well, I don't want you to know too much about your dad or who he actually was, because I don't want you to fucking turn out like him, basically. But
I can't
move
tell you nothing, because you
into,
may wind up growing up and regretting that, and I kept it from you, and you're going to kill me when you grow up. Who knows?
well, yeah, and that's the other whole thing is you're like, clearly she's sheltering him from some sort of narrative. So what's the narrative he gets? The fucking sanitized Hollywood version of it, which I thought was like such a brilliant touch, dude,
perfect,
to end on that.
Yeah.
That's Jim Cummings playing alternate Barry, which is just like perfect meta casting. I don't know if have you ever seen Thunder Road, or what was the one he just did recently? I don't know. He's an indie dude, like writes, directs, self-produces.
I don't know if I'm allowed to like
Wolf of Snow Hollow. Did you see that one?
Don't know if I'm allowed to like him.
Okay.
okay.
But okay,
Jim Cummings sounds like a great dude, but I don't know if I'm allowed to like him.
The reveal essentially of the narrative as far as the world is concerned is that Gene Cousineau is a fucking criminal.
No, my favorite is when he was like, "You can't possibly think that," and her dad goes, "You're a good actor, Gene." And he seems like he's so happy to be acknowledged as being a good actor, but it's like, they're gonna fucking accuse you of murder. And you idiot, you don't fucking shoot Barry. You leave him alive to confirm that you are not a terrible person. But what do? You just immediately like blow him away the chance you get. Arguably, most people probably tell you, probably a good idea, you should have. But at the same time, like, shoot him in the leg, shoot him in the chest, something where he doesn't die instantly, so people who are on the way to get you can be like, tell them, some kind of proof. So now it just looks like you killed the guy that you hired to fucking murder your FBI girlfriend. Yeah. Because you had some kind of involvement with Chechens and maybe you had your first student.
Literally none of it tracks. But then remember all of the police officers that we have spent time with in the course of Barry, and how fucking like dumb I would say 90% of them were.
The only one that's worth it is her father. That's it.
Yes,
and maybe the DA.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was saying there at the end though, I'm like, this is kind of in a weird, fucked up, totally perverse Barry sort of way. This is kind of Gene's dream though.
Yeah.
Right? To ultimately be thought of as like, even again, it's like, yes, you're known forever as the murderer of the woman you loved and like this completely different picture of you. But it's like, would he not enjoy being the celebrity, like the Hannibal Lecter, essentially, of the acting world?
Yeah.
Like, he's probably having a great time in prison. It's the most attention he's ever gotten. So I was sitting there going like, dude, again, fucked up and perverse, but it's like Gene gets to like have his ultimate celebrity moment where it's like he really made a dent. Sally gets to teach the next generation. She gets the validation of that. NoHo Hank died because he didn't have his love anymore. He lost Cristobal. There's nothing else there. Fuchs, only one who's out in the win. Also the only one who redeemed himself in any real tangible sort of way.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Fuchs has never physically killed someone.
Almost positive, yeah. Never
exactly.
Actually. Yeah.
So that's my whole thing. I was like, of course he didn't need to die. He didn't do anything wrong. Of course.
He did a lot of wrong.
He did a lot of wrong, but like I will never get over this entire series. I will never get over him ending up in places with beautiful women twice to start a life with them, only to not be able to let it go and have to go back to fuck
just taking all the wrong signs.
Dude, I love it. I'm so happy to the point of like just watching when they go to attack. It's like, okay, load the next one. We only brought one rocket. What? I'm thinking budget. He calls him and he's like, what you do now? Run out of rockets or whatever? He's like, no, I want a truce. Like, he's just...
We're entering a new phase. What phase is that? Do whatever the fuck Fuchs says.
Dude, you know what I've been thinking about? Is, like, the scenes of Stephen Root in fucking RoboCop 3.
Uh-huh.
And, like, the long orange jacket when they're breaking into, like, the armory. I'm like... The origins of the Raven. Like, I want to make some kind of meme or gift of that. It's like, just him on the streets taking weapons and shit. Because I'm like, he has been around for
forever.
35, 40 fucking years.
And one of those guys who is like never, ever less than amazing in everything that he's
Find me a bad performance of him. I'll fucking wait.
I love that dude. Even Succession made room for him to reappear in the final season,
dude.
Because he's fucking Stephen Root.
He's fucking perfect, dude. Like, he is the ultimate guy actor.
To close it out, everybody gets their weird happy ending because that look on the kid's face at the end of the show, it's like Barry ultimately got what he wanted. He got somebody finally that saw the version of him that he wanted to project to the entire world.
And it's just shitty that it had to be Hollywood to do it.
Right, which is all wrapped up in the storytelling narrative and all the stuff he's been playing with the whole time. And the whole idea of, like, you take this guy who had already basically, when somebody should have, like, taken this kid aside and, like, hey, you seem like you have some issues.
Let's talk.
Let's get you some help.
Let's go to Walter Reed.
We have somebody instead who shoved him into the military. I always took it as like Barry was probably a little off before the military. It's not the military that did it to him, obviously.
No, I think it's he's on the level of John. You see everything that Barry was in John in these moments where he's talking to him like, well, you did a good thing there. You know, he never got that from his dad. Mm-hmm. He had that. His dad didn't really do whatever. And so maybe Fuchs kind of stepped in.
Always kind of searching for a father figure.
Pushed him into this.
Oh my God. Yeah. That was one of the brilliant things I read. So Henry Winkler's take on the final scene, their interaction and everything, was he was like, that's Barry up until this point. The whole like, oh wow, is he's like, up until this point, as Barry has seen it, this is his father. And why would Gene ever be mad at him? Because he doesn't understand that, like, Barry, you killed the woman I love, and like that upset me. But Barry can't process it. He's like, but I love you and you're my father, so we're good. Nothing could break that. And so the oh wow is literally like, oh what? Oh, I
get it now.
Okay. Yeah. So like a moment of clarity right at the end, right before he gets his fucking brains blown out.
It's essentially
which is one of the best punchlines
right. Okay.
I can ever think
the
of.
The one thing I want to know, just when was that written? Because in my head, one SNL cast member to another, if you don't have it in Uncut Gems, do you have it in this? Because I feel like that, like, Sandler's at the moment of clarity and everything he's ever wanted is like there. He's got it. And it gets taken away from him. Is it a reverse and like a reverse perversion of that of like, oh, I get it now. Everything that I thought was bullshit. Like, of course, it's bullshit. Quote unquote. We'll get to that in a minute. Oh yeah, everything I've been thinking is bullshit. Of course Gene would want dead. Like, is it a reverse play on that? That's why I want to know when it was written. Was it something that
it was rewritten during the pandemic? So yeah, post Uncut Gems.
Yeah,
that's what you want to tie into.
I'm curious because I wonder. I just wonder how other things influence people.
Should ask him.
And would if I could, I wouldn't. And to me, I haven't seen anybody do something like that since Uncut Gems. So if it is like a maybe I saw it and I got a nod from it, of like, oh, as soon as I saw that, I realized I need to figure out a way for the character I've been writing for 2 years to like get to that level. Mm-hmm. It's just I'm just interested in how the interplay of all that works, and sort of like the thing. And there's throughout the whole series, there's been so many jokes and puns, like the fact that he gets a TV show just because he's tall. Mm-hmm. That's a hilarious joke, but it's kind of true. Most of the time, I would imagine. And then just the different people that like you see, like can you make that come out of that? Like just shit like that. Fucking having the girl who made Coda be in there. Like, are you fucking kidding me? She's like, yeah, now I'm making a movie about Spain. But I'm showing my range.
One of my favorite jokes of, I guess it's season 2, but just the way he says J. Roach.
Yeah.
Like the director J. Roach's name and then J. Roach eventually. Yeah, it's the new J. Roach movie. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I can't do it the way he does it. It's much funnier. Yes. So I can't. But yeah, ending on that note with the kid of, again, I look at it as very perverse because it is very dark to me, ultimately, that it's like, oh wow, this is fucked up. This is, he gets to be a hero in the eyes of his kid, and like there's only a handful of people that really know the true story. Sorry.
I'm just thinking about the article headline. I found out my dad paid off mine with it, so he shot me. Like, just all the terrible things about Gene, who does not deserve it at all. And I think that is the ultimate message. Those who don't deserve it get shit on, and the ones that do deserve it get shit on. Those that don't deserve it get immortalized. Like, if that is not the most Hollywood fucking esque answer, like, what could be, And I mean, you think about it from like, look at that in the context of where we're sitting now with God knows when stuff's going to get made, because the ones who deserve it, writers, are getting shit on. You know what I mean? It works from the ground up through that entire state, that entire town, that entire industry. Those who deserve it get shit on, and the ones who least deserve it are the ones we're all going to love. We should really have a series about like we should have reality series about like big movers and shakers who make things happen in this country. Not a woman who fucked a football player and got famous for it. You know what I mean? Or whose mom happened to be friends with a white girl that got killed by O.J. Simpson. Like, we shouldn't do that, but we do. And it's all fucked because it's all a fucking game. And it really doesn't matter whether you're good or whether you're bad. It's all about how people perceive you. And then your perception of things can change on a dime, which we saw happen to Gene. Gene is the most fucked over character in this whole thing. And it happens in 2 episodes. And you're thinking, like, this isn't going to, like, you want to think, like, he's going to get out of it. But you realize, like, well, wait a minute. He has been kind of shitty. Because he took the money.
Wanting that ego.
He did shoot his own son.
And what I was going to say, and the reveal, of course, that we get mainly in season 3, which is just like, oh, Gene Cousineau? Like, we hear all these things peripherally. It's like, it sounds like he was a fucking monster back in the day, and that's why he never made it.
Yeah, so that's why he only taught.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that, and again, probably a guy who took on the I'm going to be the teacher because I can control the narrative and be seen as a great actor, etc.
Just like you talked about it, the scene after he gets done talking to Vanity Fair, and he's just fucking, he's got a towel around his neck and a water bottle. I gave it all I had, you know. And then the old boy from Mulholland Drive, they just find him and he's like, does he speak German? No, he doesn't. He's just, I like him much. He's just speaking this entire language because Janice's dad got to like
eating Haribo gummy bears.
Dude.
Okay, Barry nailed it.
Yeah.
We went way longer on that than I
Stuck that
expected to.
landing,
But you want to talk Succession?
You talk about who's the best boy?
None of them.
None of them.
Spoiler alert, they all lose. Everybody loses.
Shiv.
They all lose. As I mentioned, they all lose.
It turns out, it's me, Shiv. It's me.
Yeah. It was Tom all along. I feel like I didn't flat out say it, but definitely in the midst of our discussion, I did manage to elucidate. He is the one guy who has always seemed like he had it all.
Yeah.
All the elements of like, I've been on the outside. I've watched enough of the people in power to kind of, and while it wasn't like, it wasn't a strategic like masterstroke, it was essentially kind of like laid in his lap in this. It made sense in a weird way.
Okay.
Where I was kind of, I have been a little bit like, oh, he's really buddy with Greg, like Mattson's really buddy with Greg, and he told Shiv like, oh yeah, Menken's down for US CEO, but I'm like, but he didn't say you, and my weird brain is like, oh yeah, he's gonna make Greg, and Greg will just be a puppet, and I'm like, no, he would never make Greg. They're not gonna make a fucking like 28-year-old CEO voice to Royko. I was like, it was right in front of me. No, I was like, it was Tom.
No, but see, that's the thing. What you thought could have happened, because that could have been Mattson. I'm going to shake it up. I'm still going to give you the Roy Star name with a relative of his.
Yeah, no, again, I thought that's where we might, in a weird, twisted way, that's where we were headed. But I should have more realistically expected, like, yeah, it was going to be Tom. And then, of course, the ultimate thing, which is where I always hoped the show would land at, which is like, anybody who was watching this for like, who's going to win, that shit never mattered to begin with.
No.
So hope that's not why you were watching.
So I don't remember where our discussion ended last, but I'm going to kind of start from like the end of the
we had done election night, right. So we have not discussed the funeral or the finale.
The funeral, I thought, was perfect. With them
this entire final season has been exceptional, and like the definition of perfection in my mind.
James Cromwell being like, who would what kind of people would stop a brother from speaking or whatnot? And the fact that you had Roman like rehearsing it all morning. Baby boy's got it. He's
one of the ultimate rules of television. If you see the rehearsal, you will never see the execution.
Right.
Something's going to go wrong.
Oh, of course. I knew it was coming. But the level of meltdown that kid had.
I lost it.
Mind-boggling.
Is he in there?
Is he in
there?
Can we get him out?
I could not deal with that shit.
Yeah.
I could not. That was, again, he taps into, like, I don't know where he goes to get to that level. It's the same. I mean, it's the same thing with like Jeremy Strong and any of them, but it's just like they are those people so deeply that I'm like, it doesn't feel like there's any acting there, dude.
No.
It just like you just
went
to that place.
To the cue of that, of like when they come in and they're like, no, we can't. And you, in my head, I'm like, these people are seeing these children like as children, and no one's paying attention to the fact that the oldest child is right over there. He's got his shit together, you know,
relatively speaking, yeah,
for the most part, you know. But he's not sniveling. He's not because like you said it last time we talked. He's come to terms, like he gets it, you know, and he played ball. And he's gonna get him a fucking nice embassy suite in Slovenia, wherever the hell he's gonna go, you know. And of course, he's got Logan's old pad. He bought it from Marsha, yeah. One thing I did love, I thought was brilliant, and I don't know how you feel about it. I loved ex-wife getting the news girl, the perfling, basically going to meet Marsha and being like, oh, this is so-and-so. She was my her. Like
that,
and the four
was
of them
another moment
going and sitting up front and like them making eyes about like what she's in the front row, and I don't know who it was said it, but like her saying, one of them saying, well, he won't be grinding his teeth tonight, will he? Mm-hmm. And then them holding hands. I was like, that is fucking perfect. You have never, ever gotten that sort of insight or information about that man, and you get that much, the smallest little fucking tiny little molecule of it, from four women who knew him better than his own fucking children did, and it's gone like that.
Yeah. That's another one of those. Yeah, another one of those quiet
Perfect.
Moments that like
Fucking
literally, Carrie and Marsha holding hands for like 2 seconds. I was like so powerful because of all of the peripheral shit and the world that this takes place in, where it's like, yeah, those tiny little gestures can like,
especially after you hear her say like, oh, my friend and I brought my other friend who's a lawyer
because I didn't know if I would be able to get in,
right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like in that humanity. Those women are able to set that aside to realize, like, it's not about me.
And especially none of this shit matters anymore because he's gone. Us squabbling over him makes no sense.
Right. It just
them having the presence of mind. And it's like, but meanwhile, over here in the other pew is like all of these kids still squabbling and not knowing what to do now that daddy's not in the picture. Right. So, other funeral stuff. Sorry. Oh, excuse me. To that point about getting nuggets about him, the whole Ewing eulogy, which is just like
perfectly.
We didn't know any like stuff had been hinted about, like a sister.
Yeah.
But
him leaving, coming back after she died, him not liking the school he went to, and like all this other stuff.
All of that. I mean, I think what ultimately, breaks Roman down and why he can't get up there to follow that is I didn't know any of that. Mm-hmm. He never told me any of that. Mm-hmm. I have no I have this.
How am I going to follow that?
This perspective of him or whatever, but I never knew him like this. How am I? Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So I think it's that compounded with like actually seeing the box and everything. But like that breakdown, like how it happens in real time, is just that's one of those things where I'm just like, how do you act that? How do you act the weird, the stutters and the pauses and all? Like you just have to be in it, I guess. I don't know. And then Kendall swoops in to quote unquote save the day, and I heard a lot of people kind of reference this speech as like, oh, another like, you think he's, flying by the seat of his pants, but he actually pulls out like pretty incredible speech and does what he needs to do. I didn't take that from this at all. I don't know how you looked at it, but because he keeps butting up against like, what he wants to be able to say is like, my father was, a great, loving, caring man, blah, blah, blah. He grew me to be this, but he can't honestly say any of that. Mm-hmm. And in his like struggle to like, well, what do I say? He ends up playing to the room of a bunch of, capitalists who have, like, the reason they're there is because of Logan's money and what he did for them.
Right.
And so he ends up being able to give a speech towards that, which definitely would lend towards, like, oh, he could be CEO. Like, I could see that. But I felt really upset by that whole speech because I'm like, dude, you could see him getting to those points where it's like, well, what you would normally say at any normal person's funeral is like, oh, I remember this great time that we had together, and like they taught me this lesson or they imparted this wisdom. It's like, you don't have any of that.
No.
You just have this like larger than life outsized perspective of him. And then Shiv gets up there and gives what I thought was, that's what you're supposed to do at a funeral. That was the most human, grounded, like, thing of any of them. And also is, you know, she's also kind of vaguely auditioning for the CEO spot, so you can't really remove that from it at the same time. But I thought, yeah, all of those eulogies just incredible, and then the aftermath of it, like the actual wake, and Kendall like trying to big dog him and just like, oh, you fucked it. You fucked it. You try to be dad. You're not dad. You fucked it. And I was just like, do you mean so mean? And it's like, they're always mean to each other. But like, I'm like, guys, it's the day of the funeral. Can we stop for 2 seconds?
Did I miss this or not? But when the next president of the United States, did he not make fun of Roman being like, oh, it's the cry boy?
100%. And I'm just sitting there going, I'm like,
dude, you picked that dude to be the next president. He is talking shit about you
for crying at your
daddy's funeral. You are so fucked. And so this is what I wanted to get into. We get it with like, we'll just say it up front. We're bullshit, okay?
Yeah.
I like the idea of nobody figuring it out when people figured it out. And to me, Roman didn't figure it out until that night. Till the night, like...
He went out in the crowd of protesters.
And realized he's bullshit.
Yeah.
No one gives a fuck about him or his family. He is not better than them. Why? He got his ass kicked by like 2 people. No bodyguards. I'm going to walk. So Roman figures it out before any of them else. They're bullshit. What does he do? Runs home to cry to mommy, right? So then we're left with the other 2 who are bickering about like, you got it, you don't got it, you don't got it. And I'll put this on anything you want, dude. When she walked out and started talking to Madsen and he looked like he could give 2 shits, I looked at Becky. I was like, he ain't going to pick her. He's going to fuck her over. And she looked at me. I was like, watch. I called it just with how just disinterested he was at all. I was like, yep, she backed the wrong fucking horse, bro.
It's that same energy when you thought she was really, really like about to grab the brass ring from Logan or whatever, and eventually I think it's the Piss Mad episode or whatever where he's just like, stop bossing around me. Like he snaps on her, and it's like she's been nothing but like she's been killing it behind the scenes essentially, but she also has been like, she's so eager. It's the same shit when it's like, when she would be like, oh yeah, you know, I think they'd be comfortable with the U.S. CEO, and Madsen would be like, oh yeah, who do you have in mind? She'd be like, me? And you're just like, you can't do that. You can't, like you can't do that. You can't suggest yourself for it. Like, you have to let somebody else say it. I'm sorry. You cannot just be like, oh, well, clearly me. Like, I should be the person. Like, that's not how any of this shit works. Yeah. And when you seem like you are that eager because you think like, oh, I got this, that is the second you lose all credibility.
Dude, but not even that. That was in the to me, the CEO bit about her saying herself. That was in the vein of like, I know you want to fuck me. I know you do. So like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. People already think that like you're my puppet master anyway. Like, might as well go ahead and make me CEO. It works. You know, you got the name, you got this, you got that. You know, so like, again, yeah, you can't say that. Like, it's got to be me. She should have said Tom at that point, and he would have been like,
So funny again when she's like, oh yeah, Tom will suck the biggest dick in the room, and basically like, oh yeah, you can totally get rid of him, and like I would be fine with that or whatever. And you're sitting there going like, oh, this is Madsen going like, oh, this is the guy. This is definitely my guy.
Yeah,
like the whole time.
Yeah,
and of course, baked into all of this is the thing that she's been up against this whole fucking time. She has a vagina, dude. I'm sorry. the show is like, it's never, I mean, it's pretty upfront about it, even though it's not like screaming it at you all the time, but it's just like, no, the world that she's operating is incredibly misogynistic and sexist, and she's a woman at the end of the day. She's never, like, of course, they would rather take Tom, who on paper doesn't make any real sense, but like kind of also does, because he's been at ATN for all these years. He's been doing actual work, supposedly. We never see any of it.
He's going to have the next generation of Roy children.
Right.
Like, of course, he fits perfectly. He's fit perfectly the entire time.
But it's just like, yeah,
and you know how you know he's fit
it was never gonna
perfectly?
be.
He was the only motherfucker to get Logan Roy a gift on his birthday.
Yeah.
The first episode. Granted, he did regift that to a Mexican family that his children mortified. That mortified him, and he had to like pay off the family to like, please don't sell this to a magazine. So he regifted it. But Tom was the only one who brought him a fucking present.
Isn't Tom also the one who tags the kid out?
Yeah.
And that's
it is too. So if you want to get technical, you really can't like any of them at all.
Oh, never. I mean, well, again, the thing I always, it kind of took forever to, I guess, to make it all the way up the rung to Shiv, to him. And there's a little bit of it echoed in the conversation with Madsen, but Greg has kind of always been privy to it, that it's just like, Tom's fucking, he's a climber, dude. Like, he is. That's his thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, by any means necessary, he is the most cutthroat. Mm-hmm. And you never really pieced it together, but like, it always made sense.
Yeah. I do love it when they basically, I love the because there is that tension of like, I mean, obviously, like, I want to fuck her. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just making you uncomfortable, and you're like, okay. You would like to think
the way he delivers what we are men, is just incredible.
Because
we're both men.
You fast forward or you rewind back to the whole open relationship thing, and he goes to the political duties like, you drank my wine, you get the fuck out of my wedding. Like, that's Tom's big dick on the table move right there. He can't do that to Madsen. Right. Now, so what does he do? He's willing to like forego that, allow Madsen and whoever to make jokes about his wife and like he's still married to her, the woman that's gonna potentially have his baby, and like, you're willing to accept the CEO job, the guy that your quote unquote in-laws, your family selling this company to. You're going to accept the CEO job from him, knowing that like any chance he gets, he's going to try and fuck your wife. You don't give a shit about that at all. You love being rich. And you love
because you got the biggest toy.
You're the bestest boy.
Exactly.
You know? And that tells you everything you need to know right there about everything. But it also explains like, the fact that she, like, the fury of which she stormed out of there being like, oh, no fucking way, it's not Tom. Like, if it ain't going to be me, it ain't Tom. Mm-hmm. You know? And then I guess the turn at the end, like, it's just so...
What did you make of the turn? Because again, what was pretty much an across the board, I've heard some little quibbles with the finale. Few and far between. But the Shiv turn, some people are kind of like, I don't know if it tracks in the final moment. And I have my own take on it, but I'm just curious. So why do you think ultimately, with how the fervor that she has of just like, fuck you, motherfucker, we have the numbers, and walks away from him after he's like, it's gonna be me. What do you think is the scale tip back in the other direction?
It's the fact that it's totally the fact that Tom told her it's gonna be me, because she's learned more than anything, she can't trust her brothers at all.
Definitely not.
And the whole time we talked about this last time, I didn't even mention it. I would not, regardless of how he felt, my own brother fucked me over by voting no with my dad in the room in the first season. Why I would ever think he would ever help me out, which I was amazed that Rome didn't do the same thing again, to say, nah, I'm for it.
He so clearly did not want to, like...
Right. Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't.
So half-hearted. Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, you know, she's walking in there.
Oh my God, dude. The moment before they go in, though, when he comes in and it's just like the dealing with being in Dad's office, seeing Kendall all of a sudden be behind there wherever Jerry comes in, and he has the breakdown moment, and he's just like, but why isn't it me? That was another time when it got me, because I was just like, dude, I know we can talk about the tortured soul of Kendall Roy like forever, but Roman, who is the one who never seemed like he gave a shit about any of this to begin with, is the one who has arguably been the most like eviscerated because of it. And he's sitting here at the end and he's like, and I don't even have a shot. This thing that I didn't even really want, but I kind of only wanted because, well, now Ken's not the favorite boy. Maybe I can be Dad's favorite boy, whatever. Yeah, that really...
It's just because he's the baby. That's all.
But he's not the baby. But he is the baby.
Who is the baby?
Shiv's the youngest. But he's the baby boy.
Yeah, he's
which
the
might
youngest
as well
boy.
be
Yeah,
the...
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Shiv is the baby girl. She's the youngest. But yeah, that moment of... but why isn't it me? Or I just feel like people are going to be wondering, why isn't it me? And then, you know, they embrace, he breaks the stitches again, like all of that before they go in for the vote, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he was giving him an out because he was like, I think I should do the call in. If I'm not Unity's like, yeah, but I mean, and I took that as like, he's going to break his stitches so that like, if he does bail, he has the out of like, I had to leave, my stitches were bleeding again. He was doing what a big brother needed to do of like, I'll help you out. I'll give you the out of not having to be there. You can call in if you can't sit in the room. But then he chooses like power move. I'm going to go sit in the room with a bleeding head to say what I'm going to say. You know?
Yeah.
And we should, before we get to that, when they go and like, they go to their moms to like get him to like figure out what's going on with voting. When they decided to go down to the fucking, the beach that night, Bex turns to me and goes, what if they all just fucking got caught in a riptide and died right now? I was like, that's dark as shit, but like that would be hilarious if they just all sucked that. And then when they started talking about murdering him, and I'm like, what if it just turns to that? Like it's legit, like these kids are so incensed that their older brother's going to get
such a wild move
they have
in the finale.
Yeah, of course, you know. And so when it doesn't, and then they had this beautiful scene where they're all kids again, and you're like, this was them 20, 30, 40 fucking years ago, right?
Yeah.
And then it switches to just all out visceral just hatred amongst all of them.
Well, again,
I fucking love it. Like, it's so good.
Dude, so apparently that is the last scene they filmed, was that like the drink fit for a king, and apparently Jeremy Strong's method ass drank all of whatever they put in there, multiple takes, and was like throwing up and shit in between. Just like, dude, and I'm listening to him today on a podcast. He's just like, I wouldn't know how to not drink it, because Kendall in that moment they told him if he drinks it, he can be king. So I wouldn't know how to honestly communicate that if I didn't drink it. I'm just like, this guy's he's on another level, dude. I
think Brian Cox is sitting in his Scottish mansion, just like, thank fucking God they killed me.
So yeah, Brian Cox has been like pretty here's the thing. He went on a wild press tour like for the last little bunch or whatever, and he's kind of publicly said a couple times that he's like, fucking Jeremy Strong, like, really, you got to do all this? Where he's like, it's called acting, my friend, like that sort of shit. But I'm sitting here going, I'm like, dude, what if Cox is like such a gifted actor or whatever that he's like, oh, but this is his process and I'm respecting it. I'm negging him in public as myself about his process the way that Logan Roy would he's like, I'm perpetuating the dynamic to make him a better actor. Right. Like, I'm telling him all this shit is worthless and pointless that he's doing because I know it's actually working and it's really worth it.
And I have to do it until I know they're done shooting.
It's just so weird. Yeah. But with how I could feel in that moment, because that scene goes on for so long and everything, I was like, you can feel it ending. Like, this is the first time it felt like a finale where I was like, any other episode, this scene would never go on this long. But they're trying to show you one last little moment of like, hey, just remember, when these three can put all this shit aside, or when they're not focused on all of this stuff, they seem like they'd have a pretty fun time if they all just were like, fuck it, let's go spend our millions and, just eat fancy food and vacation in places. Like, they'd probably have a really great time. But they're all broken fucking people on the inside who have to chase this other inevitable thing. So
and I looked at it as like, see this is great. This episode is going to be the last time you ever see this, because after what happens tomorrow, none of them will ever be in a room together again. They will never.
They'll probably never speak to each other again after what happens the next day. So yeah, boardroom breakdown. I mean,
yeah, just vote for me. Just do it. Just vote for me. Come on, I'm the firstborn. I'm
the eldest boy.
I'm the eldest boy.
You're not. That's the shit where I'm like, dude, whatever shit Jeremy Strong has to do behind the scenes to get to those scenes, he has the smallest ego as an actor I've ever seen. He has no problem looking like a complete douchebag or piece of shit. It's like there's zero vanity at all. And it's just, I don't know, dude, but it's just like, to be that impotent and impudent at the same time, just like, again, he is a small child trapped in the body of a 50-year-old man in that moment. And again, the dialogue is there, but the physical performance of it is like, everything is communicating. This is a child who's like, the toy's right there. Fucking let me hold it. Just let me fucking hold it, please, please, please. And they won't let him do it, dude. And the escalation is like, I'm sorry, you can't do it. Why? Because you killed a guy, man. He's like, no, I didn't. Immediately. No, that didn't happen.
Wait, that was a bit?
I made it up.
You were just doing...
Well, and of course, the fact that would be the thing that Roman is of course just like, oh, so the most fucking emotionally vulnerable we've ever been with each other in our entire lives. The one moment I felt like with this thing that he secretly craves on the inside that he can never just say out loud, which is like, the kid just wants a hug. He just wants to be loved. And he's just like, so the one moment when I thought we were being genuine, like, that was a bit, and now I don't even know if, like, are you lying in the moment now or whatever. It's like, that breaks the emotional trust with him. That also, like, reinforces to Shiv. It's just like, I can't. And I think the biggest thing he says in that moment, he's like, well, I think we know that this is an ultimately hollow existence and a job that ultimately kills you. But I still want it, kind of thing. Like, this is all I'm built for. Just give it to me. Let me have it.
I don't know how to do anything else. That was my favorite.
She's trying to spare him. I think that's what it is at the end. I genuinely think that's what it is. They just watched their dad die. And I think she is genuinely like, as much as I detest you, I can't stand anything you stand for at this point. You have no moral compass. You have nothing that I can latch onto in that sort of way. I think it's a mercy killing, essentially. She basically is like, I have the final deciding thing that could basically spare you burning the fuck out and ruining the rest of your life, even though it's arguable whether he has anything left to live for. He has alienated everyone in his life. But I that's how I took it. I took it as like, she was trying to spare her brother, who she loves, but ultimately is like, this guy is not a good person. From the fate of like she can see he is becoming our father, and I can't let that happen. That's kind of how I took it, and the fact that obviously he will never actually ever be their father because he's a little kid. So yeah, that, and then the bloodline thing.
Oh yeah,
which kind of came out of fucking nowhere, and I was like, this is some of the most vicious shit that's ever been said on this show. But just like, well, just technically, just telling you how Dad saw it, or dead father who can't speak to the contrary right now. But yeah, Dad thought it was a test tube baby and a buy-in or whatever. Yeah. And it's just like, whoa. And then he's like trying to fucking gouge his eyes out.
Yeah.
That shit escalated so quick. Did not see that coming. And yeah, and it's just like after that, it's fucking broken. We're bullshit. It's all bullshit. Like, none of this matters. Like, all that's so beautiful. And the one moment we didn't quite touch on is the last Connor moment. But when they go to do the stickers for the, the will, whatever's left over and everything, and they have the virtual funeral.
And they're watching him and they sing the song and all that.
Yeah.
And he's,
just so brilliant, because it just reinforced at the end of the day, and it mirrors it right at the end. The story that Shiv tells at that funeral about them being little kids outside the office, making way too much noise, they couldn't know what was going on behind closed doors, blah, blah, blah. At the end,
they're grown up.
They are grown-ups kids arguing outside the office in full. So here's the other thing. All of that is said at a very loud volume. Does everyone on that floor now know that Kendall killed a guy?
Right.
I had that thought, because when he came in and he's so disheveled or whatever, and Frank just has to tell him, like, you don't have it. Like, it's 7 to 6. It's done. There's also this look of everybody just kind of like, did you just admit to murder, like, in front of like hundreds of people? I don't know.
You said no, you weren't there, but again,
yes,
the only guy who knows the truth is the guy walking with
is your
bodyguard.
Grim Reaper who's gonna be following you for fucking ever. Yeah. But no, what was so brilliant is what that virtual funeral thing led us into is, like, this was the inner circle. This is the side of him you guys never ever got to see. Seems like a pretty fun dude. Yeah. Pretty good dinner conversation or whatever. And you're like, who's there? Jerry? Carl? Frank? People who have been with him for fucking decades at this point. Seen the best, seen the worst, whatever. But, like, that's who he surrounded himself with. And who else is there? Connor. Yeah. The one person who kind of made his peace with, like, I don't need any of this. I'm going to go enjoy my millions. And, like, kind of maybe later in life, it's like, I would kind of like to impress him. Like, maybe I'll run for president or something. But was never, like, he was never attached. It was never the make or break thing for him as a person. He was able to just, like, hang out with Dad on the weekends. We're getting dinner. I'll razz him a little bit, and they could have that kind of repartee between each other. But these other three who just got, like, sucked into the vortex of, and that, oh my God, the whole Kendall thing of, like, he promised me at Candy Kitchen when I was 7. It's like, dude, nobody should ever do that to a child. Like, right. And he even knows in the moment, he's like, he should have never done that. And it's like, yeah, dude. And it's like, but you could still make the adult decision to, like, move beyond that. But your broken brain has just been like, this is the only thing I can or should do with my life. And then now you can't do it. What the fuck is left for you? And the fact that we leave Shiv in essentially a loveless marriage where she is adjacent to power but never quite holding the brass ring. Tom getting to finally have his moment in the sun where it's like, I've been fucking eating shit for 4 seasons.
My favorite was him pulling the thing off and sticking it on Greg's forehead and being like, it's okay.
I got just enough capital for you.
I got enough for you.
I also loved Hugo coming up to him and like, hey, great, congratulations. And him just me, where's Carolina? So good,
I do love that, like, when they're taking the picture. Matt's like, and we got Judas in the house too. And he points over at Tom. Not Tom. He points over at Greg and you're like, But it's like, yeah, Greg, I mean, it's one of those things where you're like,
just a shit player at the game the whole time.
Yeah.
Always too giddy to like, oh, I got a piece of information. How can I use it? And just like no patience for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those where, like, again,
I just want to say, I love the show. I think it ended brilliantly. I would 100% watch season 5 Succession with Tom and Greg at the head of everything, with Jerry and Carl and Frank in the background.
Oh, no, they're all getting fired. He already said that.
Well, no, he said he was keeping Jerry.
Yeah.
He said he was keeping Jerry, but he said he was getting rid of Carl and Frank.
Yeah, because
but I love that they're like golden parachutes or one last rodeo.
Yeah, we should have smothered him in the womb when we had the chance. Oh, God, I love it, dude. Yeah, and it's one of those where, like, it's just so, like, and again, going back to, like, figuring out, like, I think it's not until Shiv, if Shiv did not know that Tom was in play, I feel like that's her voting to keep it in the family. It's only once she finds out that it's him, that she knows that in her back pocket, optics wise, she can still be relevant.
Well, and it kind of retroactively, a lot of people were like, so much made of the baby throughout the season. And it's like, well, clearly comes into play because regardless of how loveless this marriage is, the long con and the ultimately like dark story of this is like, you're gonna have another Roy child who is groomed from the cradle to the grave to do this thing, supposedly. And then when they actually reach the age to do it, will they go through the same fucking fucked up cycle of, you know, trying to grasp the brass ring and never quite being able to put their hands around it? I don't know.
But who's to say that in a month it's not all cut up because Matson's going to cut it up like he wants anyway?
Yeah,
like
and again, that's where I'm like...
And again, at the end of the day, we forget, you all just, like, when
they all just made billions of dollars.
Yeah, like, I know, like, Roman didn't want to do it, and he was like, I don't want to go, like, take the fucking picture, you know, which is perfect after what you said to him, like, you know, about how it was never going to happen.
Yeah.
But, like, at the end of the day, take your fucking millions and just fuck off. I mean...
And Roman seems like he's the only one who's doing that.
Yeah.
Who just kind of goes back to what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I for a minute I was like, just jump in the Hudson. Just jump in the Hudson.
So
just
supposedly, or not supposedly, I literally heard him say it earlier today. There is a take where he attempted to do that in the moment, like improv, and the actor playing Colin, like, rushes and grabs him and pulls him back. Essentially the idea that like he has forced himself into a situation where it's like he'll always be watched or have this like reminder of his father over his shoulder, and even if he is at the end of his rope, he does have somebody there who ultimately would not let him end it. So he is stuck in this perpetual state of like, you know, they have the exact opposite. You know, he's not high up in the tower of glass the way they always are, whenever he's down on the street level. And they've had him in bodies of water throughout the series, at moments of triumph and at moments of like, oh, maybe he's dead, like towards the end of season 3, where they do that fake out, if you even want to call it that. But to have him here where it's like he's literally trapped between, like, he's been reduced to street level, but he still can't get to the quote-unquote like freedom of the ocean or whatever, and he can just sit and stare at it. It's like this thing that was in reach forever, and he'll just never be able to. That's it. He's in a perpetual state of just longing for that thing. And yeah, I thought it was a great fucking final shot and a great summation of everything. And again, some people said they thought it was a little too on the nose. I think some people needed to hear the "we're all bullshit" line.
yeah, no, I felt it. Like,
and to have it come from Roman, the most cynical of the bunch in a lot of ways, but ultimately the most emotional and heartfelt at times too. And like you said, the hollowness of like, I elected a fascist because I thought my daddy would like it. My daddy who's dead. What did I do? Like, why did I do that? And again, the step back from all of this and like this whole final season, all of these decisions have been made in the span of like a week and a half. Right. All of this has happened in these characters' lives in like 10 days. Yeah. It's insane. Yeah. Any other final thoughts?
No, I thought it was like perfect way to end it all. I was thinking like, you know, obviously for Shib, when she realizes it's not going to be her, I think is when Tom tells her like, it's going to be me. Like at that point it was not a like, cause I mean, yeah, she's kind of been a bitch to him and things she said. She's never fully gone full bore against Tom, you know, at least not knowing. Like she hasn't actually tried to. So
my argument would be that balcony fight is the dark thing because it sets the table for like, I don't think there is any coming back from that after you've said those things to each other. But now through circumstance, they are in a situation where it's like that. It kind of shows you, we never saw the dissolution of their marriage, but it's like, well, how did Logan and Caroline fall apart? How did Logan and his first wife fall apart? You know, we get alluded to like mental health or whatever, but it's like how much of that was projection from him and just like, oh, she's being crazy, have her committed, because it was that era, you know. And yeah, so I think there's some of that in the mix. Is like we're seeing the perpetuation of a certain amount of cycle. She became her mom against all of her trying not to. She became her mom
because what did her mom have that she thought she should just have from the get-go? Her mom had to deal with an affair, a girl on the side, to the point that she associates that with like normal behavior.
Oh, absolutely, and perpetuates it.
Perpetuates it now. So she can be married to Tom, have the newest round of Royce, and there'll be Wom's games now, but who cares? You know, but it'd still be the bloodline of Logan Roy. It's perfect for all the optics. But really the only way she can like kind of rebel against that would be to do what her dad did to her mom, but like do it to Tom. Like, oh, I'm going to fuck the boss, the owner of this company,
right.
Not you, the CEO, you know? Because I know I can do that and you won't leave me because you love me, but like you won't ever, like, I will kick you and you will always come back no matter what, especially now that I have you by the balls with a child, you know? And so that to me, again, like I said, when she finds out Tom is going to be it, that's when she knows it's not her. And I feel like it's not really until he's sitting down there watching the water that he truly understands that it's not him, you know? Like in his head, it's just a bad dream. He'll wake up tomorrow and it's like, it's still going to be the same thing. But again, you're fucking rich.
So rich.
So fucking
unfathomably rich.
Yes. And again, lest we forget, every one of you was a piece of shit to a child on Thanksgiving in the opening episode of this show. Yes. And for that, I will never forgive you. And
it really did set the tone.
Yeah. You can all rot in hell for all I care.
Yeah. I can't wait to rewatch it.
Oh yeah,
I'll tell you that right now.
I can't wait for let's jump 30 years. Tom is an aging CEO. His son is about to take over, but who's he got to contend with? Tom's old fucking disgusting brother Greg, who's just still hanging around trying to creep his way into the fucking top seat. And who's going to help him navigate this? Well, his estranged uncle, Kendall.
I want to watch Carl and his brother-in-law go to their Greek island and just hang out. And Frank visits them sometimes.
Spoiler alert.
That's all I want.
Spoiler alert. Carl's brother-in-law is Epstein. Spoiler.
It was Epstein all along.
How do you think he got out of that jail so quickly? Carl pulled some strings. Now Epstein's living it up on his own private island. Tune in next week for what's Carl's last name? I can't really
I have no idea. But yeah, we will. I guess we'll say goodbye for now, and we'll have the great, what is the state of television debate on the next episode.
Carl, Jerry, and Jeff hanging on. Oh, sorry,
dude. I would.
Yeah.
I think it ended perfectly, but
I think
there is that dark part of me that's like, I'd watch like 8 more seasons of this shit.
You know what I want? I want someone
it's just so well written.
I want someone to take one of these people from here, make the entire Epstein story, but don't tell me it's him. So like the first season, I think I'm getting like a slick
okay.
And then it's like season 2, you're like, what's your name? Like, what's his name? Oh, his last name's Epstein. Like, what? I get the rug pulled out from me under season 2.
I mean, no bullshit, it'd be a really dark show, but like, I would like to see maybe the Succession equivalent of like the Epstein story, where it's like Succession tangentially is like loosely based on the Murdochs, but it's like, yeah, give me another sort of thing like that. As much as I want to start the HBO show Industry, which started in the midst of Succession's run and is kind of like the younger, hipper British, like very finance industry focused show that apparently is very good and a lot of people like quite a bit. It's been on for 2 seasons. As much as I want to start that to like scratch my Succession itch a little bit, I think I'm honestly just gonna restart the show
Yeah.
Like almost immediately. Because I talked to Mikey last week, and or 2 weeks ago rather, and he was like, dude, I started rewatching. He's like, the jokes hit even harder. It's like, he said it's crazy going back to it, because it's like those first couple episodes where I don't know how you watch them, but I initially was kind of like, I don't know if I'm here for this show. I don't know if I'm going to stick with it. And it wasn't until like episode 4 or 5, I think, where it kind of fully had its hooks in me, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But he was just like, no, dude, from the get-go, there's so much that just like pops even more a second time through. And I was like, I could definitely see that happening. So I look forward to a rewatch. We'll have the whole state of television debate on our next episode when we discuss Dave and first episode of The Idol. Yep. So that's your new HBO Sunday night programming.
Of Class of 09. I'll fill you in on the latest.
I got plenty of other stuff I finished that I can catch you guys up on as well. Dead Ringers, Mrs. Davis, etc., etc. I think you would like Dead Ringers quite a bit. Check it out. 6 episodes, Amazon Prime.
The latest season of Below Deck Mediterranean. I can get you in on that. And we'll talk about it.
Only reason I won't make fun of it is because it's Steven Soderbergh's favorite show.
Now, is that a show or is that a...
Below Deck?
Is that a show?
What?
Is that a show or is it a program?
It's a show.
It's not a program?
No, it's not a program.
Okay. That's the difference.
Programs are from the 50s.
Okay. Is it an episode or is it a show?
I don't know. What is television? Yeah. We will explore this and more next week on the ARK of E podcast. For this week, I have been Noah.
And I have been Gavin Roy. Did you notice that I changed my name on one of the
Gavin
shows?
Roy II?
Yes, I did.
So there's a Gavin Roy Sr.
somewhere.
Okay. I
killed him in combat, and I've taken his name.
I am the cat from Kiki's Delivery Service, because it looks like one of my cats.
Did I put Brian Cox on there as my dude?
No, you put Connor.
I did put Connor.
Yeah.
Because Bex was like, you should do Connor. And
I was
like,
gonna do Roman, and then I was like, no, because he's not the baby brother. He's just the middle brother. He is the youngest brother, but he's not the baby. Anyways.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to do Porco Rosso, the Miyazaki character, the pig that flies planes. Mm-hmm. Don't have him on there. So HBO, excuse me, Max, if you're listening, let me get a Porco avatar, please. I would like that very much. Please put that on your service. Can we also get some for 6 Feet Under, The Wire? They do have Sopranos on there.
Of course.
But they don't... Give me The Wire. Give me 6 Feet Under. Give me Oz, dude. Give me all the cast of Oz. I want Vern Schillinger.
I'll take Maloney from Oz, for sure.
Aryan Brotherhood led by J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
Vern Schillinger.
Speaking of that, dude, I watched Whiplash the other day.
Yeah?
Just cause.
Because it's a great film.
Fucking intense, bro.
Had you not seen it before?
No.
You got to stop bringing up shit like this at the end of episodes.
It's my favorite part.
We'll talk about that sometime soon. Okay, I'm Noah. He's Gavin. We're the Blanchard brothers. That's the ARK of E. Yeah.
Fuck off.
I'm the oldest boy.
We're bullshit. This is all bullshit. This doesn't mean anything.